Welcome to another episode of How to Letter Comics, brought to you by firstdraftpress.net. My name is Marshall Dillon. I'm a comic book letterer. I've been in the business for about 25 years. Today's episode is about how to do yelling and shouting balloons. I won't drag on too long. I'll let you get right to it. Always check us out at firstdraftpress.net. Okay, what I want to show you today is a variety of ways to do yelling balloons or yelling sound effects. Just to start off, what you see here on screen is my lettering template. This is available on firstdraftpress.net and comes with these three fonts that I've created. Same font family, just a regular, an italic, and a boldface. So you can pick up this template or you can just work on your own template, but I'm going to show you a couple ways of doing yelling balloons. This is one that comes standard inside the lettering template. This is something that became popular, I believe, in the 90s. That's where I saw it the most. I'm sure it was around in the 80s as well. But basically you've got a red filled balloon underneath a white balloon. And typically the sides are a little wider than the top. I believe in the 90s they were even more extreme, more like this. So that's sort of one way to do it. And you know, this is good if the thing that's being screamed or yelled is supposed to still be pretty legible. This is basically someone just speaking loudly. But there are a number of other ways to do this. I'll just copy this part down here. And I'll change this to something else. Let's see. Stella. All right, and for this I'm going to, I might switch this to just the italic. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the balloon out of the way. I'm going to take this, convert it to outlines with Control-Shift-O. That's Command-Shift-O if you're on a Mac. And then I'm going to ungroup it with Control-Shift-G. Again, Command-Shift-G on Mac. I'm going to grab every other letter and I'm just going to nudge them up a bit like that. That gives it a little bit of a bounce, which sort of implies a variation in volume of the person speaking. You can also stretch some of those letters. Don't stretch the same ones necessarily that you bounced, but you can kind of alternate so you're getting multiple effects. And then if you shear it, so that's under the rotate tool, right click, use the shear tool. I like to drop the left and then skew it to the right a little bit. You can see how that adds a lot of energy and emotion to it. I'm going to grab that and I'm just going to regroup it for now. I'm going to pull this balloon back down here. We have a number of options for how to proceed next. First, I'm going to grab that, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to place it behind. So that's Command C for copy and Command B for behind. I'm going to hit the letter D, which gives what's behind there a white fill and a black stroke. Then I'm going to flip that with this little flip icon in the corner here. And I'm going to make that stroke, let's say a 4-point, and I'm going to give it rounded corners and caps. I'm going to take it and I'm going to move it back into place. And you start to get an idea of how that's going to look. I'm going to copy that one more time, and I'm going to click on the white balloon, and I'm going to paste it behind with Command B. And then I'm going to flip it again and add one more point of stroke, or 2 points. And you can see how that works. The text is on top, the white stroke is behind that text but still on top of the white balloon, and the black text with the black stroke is behind the white balloon. And that way that looks like it's a continuous part of the balloon. For something like this, the way I have it skewed, I'm going to shrink this down a little bit, and I might even give that a little scaling or a little shearing effect as well. You can see how that looks very dramatic by comparison. We've got one little hiccup here. You can see a bit of this black showing through. A couple of ways to fix that. Easiest way is to select this very back text Actually, that's already right. So we'll go like this. What is that? Just the letter B? Yeah, the letter B gives you the brush tool, a blob brush tool. So since this has a white stroke, I can just click right there, and it basically places a white dot right over where that spot was. So that covers it up. And I just move this text back into place, and there you go. Now, for something like that, we'll pull over one of these tails, and we'll put it into place and make it a little bit longer, as if the person saying it is a little bit farther down. We're going to give this a decent curvature to it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the pen tool. I'm going to click and make a couple of these angled lines. In fact, I'm going to do 3 of them total. Now I'm going to grab all three of those and the tail. I'm going to divide them using the Pathfinder tool. I'm going to ungroup them, and then I'm going to unite them again. What that does is it gives me these nodes. And those nodes are going to stay still, right? But these nodes in the middle are going to move sideways like this. And then this node is going to move down a little bit. This node will move up a little bit. So we're getting sort of a wobbly effect. With a balloon this long, I might have been able to get away with another one, but I'm not going to do it for the sake of the tutorial. But you can see how that gives you a little more of an interesting effect. But you know what? Maybe I'll take this the other way. I'll back that up, and maybe I'll take yeah, there we go. I think I'm going to go with this. Something like that. And again, if this was a little bit longer of a tail, we might be able to get another wobble in there. If it was shorter, we might not be able to get any at all. Just trying to find the right. There, that's not too bad. I'll give this a little softer bend in it here. Yeah. So you could see that would be sort of a distressed, someone calling out for their love. That's one way to do it. So we've got this sort of style, we've got this sort of style. There are other ways, of course. Let's do something that's more of a sound effect font. We'll look at I'll just go ahead and use Battle Cry. Why not? Okay, so we'll use the paragraph tool to center this, and we'll take out a little bit of that leading, and we'll ungroup that, we'll convert to outlines and ungroup. And again, we'll do a little bit of a bounce. Actually, let's do a bounce on the top one. Let's nudge that over so the spacing between the letters looks pretty good still. A lot of this work has to be done by eye. You can kind of start with sort of standard options and then use eye for the rest. So I bounced on the top, and then on the bottom one, I'm just going to stretch every other letter like this. I'm going to reorient the second exclamation point like that. I'm going to turn this one just a little bit like that. I'll give a couple of these letters a wibble wobble. I'm going to group that, and then hitting the letter E, it pulls up this palette, and the bottom one gives you the free distort option. And typically what I'll do is I'll just grab this corner and I'll pull it up like that. And that gives it, more drama. Sort of echoes what we did here with this one. But this is more of a sound effect-y thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'll drag this standard balloon over. Delete that text, and I'll put this text inside. Oops, let's bring that to the right layer. Let me pop open my layers real quick. That's not the right layer. Let's pull that down to letters and lock that. Okay. So you can have it fully in the balloon, which works. You can have it larger than the balloon like we did with the Stella one. And we'll do a similar thing. Copy behind, letter D, flip-flop that, take this up to, maybe we'll take this to 5, copy it, go down to the bottom balloon layer, paste behind, flip it to black again, increase it by 2 points, and that gives you a sort of different look to it. You have to be careful when doing this though, because you get some erratic things like this angle on the exclamation point causes a deep cut sticking out here on the side. So what I want to do with that is I'll just move these out of the way, and I'll just grab those nodes and pull them in a little bit and see how that works. I'm doing that just on the outline because I don't want it to stick out beyond the balloon edge. That works pretty good. This I'm going to keep because it doesn't bother me too much. In some cases that might be an issue. And I might just pull this up a bit just to make it a little, don't like it. A lot of lettering is just kind of playing back and forth to figure out what works for you. So this isn't bad. We can always, of course, take this and make it say, let's do this in a separate one. We can make this red instead of black. Or we can sort of do both. Let's pull this over one more time. I want to take these other ones and get rid of them for now. So we've got this, and let's do copy behind, down arrow, right arrow. I'm going to hit D again, and I'm going to flip that, and I'm going to delete this stroke. So what that gives me is just a black fill. So I'm going to pull it up just a bit so it's a little less crazy. That's an option, and you can have that in the balloon like we did with this one. Or you can take that, grab both of them, let's go ahead and group them, copy behind, D to give it the black stroke. We'll take that up to, oops, right there. So that's another option, another way to do it. And you can even go back and do sort of what we did over here. So we've got the yellow, or I'm sorry, we've got the red and the black together, and we've got this, the black outline. Let's flip it again, set it to 5, copy it, and we'll put it on the bottom balloon behind. We'll flip it again and give it a 6, a 7 point. Oops, that did not go to the bottom. There we go. So then you have that way to do it as well. So you've got lots of different riffs on the same idea. And these are just sort of a starting point. There are, of course, lots of ways to do it. Let's do this. We'll take this again. And this might take a little bit of playing around for me to remember how to do this on the fly. In my working template, I've got sort of cheat ones that I just copy over a lot. But for the sake of this video and showing you how to build them, let's just delete that one, and we'll work with this one that's in the background right now. Go to Effect, Distort, Transform, Roughen. Change it to Smooth. Take this down to about 3, and we'll take that up to 12, let's say. Now we'll go and we'll do Effect, Distort, Transform, Pucker, and Bloat. Okay. Make sure Preview's clicked on. We're going to take this down a couple percentages, and you'll start to see how things get real pokey. That's more points than I want, so I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to undo that roughen. So we'll go Effect, roughen again, and maybe we'll take that up and we'll take this down to like, let's try 8. And then we'll do Effect, Distort, Transform, Pucker, Bloat again, Preview's on. That's probably more than I would normally do, but for the sake of demonstration, we'll go with that. And I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to go back to the top balloon layer, and I'm going to paste in front, which is Control F. And I'm going to take that stroke off. You see how that gives us a more predictable. That didn't go to the right layer. There we go. It gives us a more predictable and easy way to work. Now, this is still just a circle. These points don't actually exist right now. This is just an effect applied to the way it displays and the way it would print, but it's not technically actually there. You know, the circle still has a circle aspect to it is what I mean. You can't select these corner nodes right now. So I'm going to copy this over. First off, let me go ahead and make this bold. Here we go. And maybe let's do another sound effecty font for this. Oh, let's do maybe I'll just choose a different sort of. There we go. And I'll set this to 0. The optical kerning font that I have here, which is set up to maximize optical kerning, it does have a -120 tracking set to it. Just as an example, what that looks like if you don't have that, it spaces it out too much. So, so because I copied that over and I was using that for the beginning of this, it had that tighter kerning where it said 100. Let's see, -120. Or sorry, tracking, not kerning. You can see how that makes it look. So we actually want that to be 0. And then we can, when we're doing yelling, we can actually take some of these and make them even more dramatic. By playing with some of the tools there. I'll just take that, and so that's not a bad way to do it. Another option here, we take these balloons, top and bottom, select them both. I go Object, Expand Appearance, and that changes it from a circle to actually having the nodes in place that you can manipulate. So let's say one of these was shorter than I wanted it to be. I could do that, or if I wanted more curvature, I could grab each of these and do that sort of thing. And what that also allows us to do is to place our tail appropriately. You can see this tail, the way it intersects is a little weird with the balloon. So we'll put it here, put it right over a point. And that's an all right way to do it, or you can, using the minus button, select all, and you can see the node there. We're going to go ahead and delete that node and the node of the one below. Oops. And give that a little bit more of a curvature to it. I did it just using the arrow keys. And then I can stick this tail somewhere in the middle of that arc. And it works fairly well. Now, with this being a pointed edge, you might want to take this and select the square miter joint and the square butt cap, and then just increase this miter limit until you see a point appear. 20 is the right one for this curvature. So you might want something like that. That's a style choice. These do get dangerous. I mentioned this in other videos, but you start to cover up a lot of artwork doing them this way. But it might be something that you choose to do. We can take that same one and we'll copy it over again. And so we've got these nice curvatures here. But if we go to Object, Path, Add Anchor Points, you can see it adds anchor points between each of those pokey parts. So you have the top of the wave, or top of the arc, and the bottom of the arc. So now if we go Object, Path, Simplify, and make sure we have Convert to Straight Lines selected, we get a very classic comics style burst balloon. And some of these, again, some of the nodes you might need to play with a little bit. to make them what you want. You can, if you want to, just grab one of these nodes and move it to help make your tail. Now you notice what happened there. Move this back. You've got this pointed version on the tail, and if I move it one more nudge to the right, it makes it square. That is not how we want to do that. So what we'll do is we'll select both of these. I'm sorry, select just the bottom one. Yep. Well, it's not going to let me do it for some reason. I think I might have a third one in there. Nope. So anyway, you can see how that plays around if you do that. If you want to just grab a point, you can make a tail from it. Otherwise, you can take, you know, this tail that we did before, copy and paste, and you can use that tail instead. So we'll go ahead and copy this over again, and I'll just move this back into a reasonable position. And then this one can go here, and again, it's on the correct layer, so it pops up underneath the white balloon, or the white balloon. So that's an option. You can also take that black one, copy it behind it again. Oh, I know what's happening there. Okay. So we'll give this a 6-point stroke, and instead of black, we'll double click on here, and we'll change this to red. Oops. And that again gives you a very classic 80s kind of burst balloon. This was pretty common with the X-Men. Tom Orzechowski did a lot of things like this with the X-Men. And you know, you can have that as a point, or you can have it as a rounded one. I would do it rounded. That's my personal style choice. But that's how I would do that sort of balloon. But I often do balloons like this, depending on the comic and what we're going for. So you can see a lot of options there for yelling. Let's go ahead and we'll take this one again. This one. And I'm going to pull this down here. We'll do another version of this. So we're going to pull these way down. We're going to scale this up. I'm going to ungroup this, and I'm going to pull these letters next to it. So it's even more of a sound effect. And I'm going to put this balloon underneath here, scale it down a bit, just enough that and put it just enough above and below that it's hanging out in a way that looks aesthetically pleasing. Now, because I went ahead and made so many changes to the underlying strokes, I'm going to go ahead and grab these again. I'm going to group them. I'm going to move them out of the way. I'm going to grab these and just get rid of them. So I'm going to basically be starting over with my stroke. I'm going to give this a little bit of a rotate. So I'm going to grab that, copy behind, letter D, flip the color, take it up to, go ahead and do 6. I'm going to go copy behind again. I'm going to take that up to 8, and I'm going to flip it again. So that's the right amount of stroke, but that's not where I want it. So I'm going to cut it. I'm going to go to the bottom balloons. I'm going to paste behind. Some areas we want to address. We've got these black areas. Some of those get covered up, but just to make it easier to see what's happening, I'm going to take this white stroke and drag it over the black so it makes a white fill as well. Now I've got a lot less visually to worry about. Hitting the letter B to get the brush and having a white stroke. I'm just going to click over that, maybe 2 clicks. You can scribble and scribble, and then I'm going to grab this text and pull it back up again. So that gives us another version that's somewhat similar. So we can also take that though and move this balloon. It's often done this way, where it's at the beginning beginning of the speech or at the end of the speech. Something like that. Just anytime you make adjustments, make sure you go back and fix any of these little areas that are hanging out and looking weird. Something to remember is, like if you click on something black and then you hit B, you're going to get a black stroke. So if you're filling in these white areas, these areas with white, you want to click on something white first, and that way you'll have a white stroke. So there we go. Throw that back in there, throw this back in here. You can see here there's a bit of white hanging out on top. That's because I had the white on the wrong layer. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this and paste in front just so that it works visually. So here are a bunch of different ways to do yelling or shouting sound effects. Yelling, shouting, screaming, whatever you want to call it. Again, we've got sort of a very 90s style. This, I would almost say, is more of a classic style. And then we've got a sound effect-y version. Lots of different options on how you can do that. We've got the bursts. There's the curved burst and the straight line burst. And then we've got these big call-out style ones. Anyway, that's how I do, or some of the ways I do yelling in my comics. So you can use those styles, those methods, apply them to your own work, and hopefully have some fun. Once again, this general template is available at firstdraftpress.net for $30. That includes the fonts and what you see over here on the side, and what you see over here, the sort of information on who's doing the lettering and whatnot, who the client is, what issue it is. Be sure to watch my other video to see how I convert this into a thought balloon. I'll do a real quick unexplained version of that, but you can follow along. There you go, you can see how that works, but I explained that in more detail in another video. Anyway, thanks guys, appreciate you hanging out and watching what I'm doing. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, and share this video with your friends who might find it interesting or useful. Again, my name is Marshall Dillon. Thanks for watching. Cheers.